Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karunam Gana Ganatam Praptasya Kalyanam Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Praptasya Kalyanam Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Mahaprabhu ke Tana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Romancha Kampasu Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Shri Vigrahara Dhana Nityanana Shringara Tanma Diramajanado Juktasya Bhaktamsa Neyunjatapi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Neyunjatapi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavad Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidha Bhagavad Prasada Satana Triptan Kridvaiva Tripte Bhajatu Sadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Radhikama Ghavayarapara Madhura Lila Gunarupa Namna Shri Radhikama Madhura Lila Gunarupa Namna Pratikshana Swa Danalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Pratikshana Swa Danalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Ne Kunja Yono Ratikeli Siddhai Jayali Bhir Jukti Apekshaneya Ne Kunja Yono Tatrati Dakya Oti Valavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Sajjadharitena Shamasta Shastri Uktastatha Bhavyataiva Sadhavi Sajjadharitena Shamasta Shastri Uktastatha Bhavyataiva Sadhavi Kintu Prabhorja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Prasadam Nagati Kuto Dayam Stuvam Tasya Yasastin Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Dhyayam Stuvam Tasya Yasastin Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Dhyayam Stuvam Tasya Yasastin Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Dhyayam Stuvam Tasya Yasastin Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Nama Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachatari Shatarine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachatari Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hariyaraye Namah Krishna Jadavaye Namah Jadavaye Madhavaye Kesavaye Namah Gopal Govindaram Shrimadhusudan Giridhari Gopina Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Shri Radha Nilamadhav Radha Nilamadhav Radhe Radha Nilamadhav Radha Nilamadhav Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadrama Jaya Sudarshan Chakra Jaya Sitaram 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 Jaya Lakshman Hanuman Sitaram Sitaram Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Pramanande Haribo Jai Vishwapar Paramita Prabhajakacharya Ashtotara Sarasishya Mariskon Pratishta Bhaviti Samstapakacharya Vaishnava Sharmani Gaura Priyajana Krishna Prema Bhaktirata Patita Pavana His Divine Grace of Bhacharavina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patita Udhara Ki Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Bhattara Gunata Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Satguru Swami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Premi Se Kaho Se Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shradvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Jai Param Dayal Se Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Jai Pramanama Sankirtanika Janaka Prema Purushottama Shri Sachinandan Shriman Gauranga Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari Mahavrana Avadhar Ki Jai Golokera Pramadhan Harinam Sankirtan Jai Ki Jai Jugo Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai बृहद मृदंग ट्रांसडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। शिशु राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपना राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय। डेल और शिव शिशु राधा नीलमाधव की जय। श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय। परम करुण शिष्य गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम चित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन कर श्रृंगरे भगवान की जय। जय गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। बोलो श्रीमती राधा रानी की जय। समवेत विंद की जय। निताय गौरी प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि। All glories to the assembly bodies, all glories to the assembly bodies, all glories to the assembly bodies, all glories, glory to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. Gaur Hari. Namaste Narashi Gaya. Namaste Narashi Gaya. Pralada Lada Daine. Pralada Lada Daine. Hiranyakasipu Bhaksha. Silatankanakalaye. Ito Nishinga Parato Nishinga. Jato jato jami tato nishinga. Bairi nishinga, hrudaye nishinga. Narasingha madim sharanam prapade. Tava kara kamala vade nakam adabhutta singha. Dalita hiranyakashipu tanabringa. Kesavadita narahari rupa. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re. Tavakara Kamala Vare Nakam Adabhutta Singha. Dalita Hiranyakashipu tanabringa. Kesavadita narahari rupa. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re. Kesavadruta narahari rupa. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re. Kesavadruta narahari rupa. Jai Jagadisha. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha, Jaya Nisingade, Jaya Nisingade, Nisingade, Jaya Nisingade, Jaya Nisingade, Nisingade, Jaya Narahari, Jaya Narahari, Narahari, Jaya Narahari. Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha. Jayo Bhakta Prahlad, Prahlad Mara, Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Prahlad Mara. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Nitai Gora Premanande, Hari. Jai Shri Bhakti Pada Sarvignathana Kanishingare Bhagavan ki jai. जय भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय, निताई गौरारी प्रेमानंद हरि हरि। Shri Vrindai Tulasi Bai Priya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Shattavataye Namo Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Bai Priya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Shattavataye Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Krishna Bhakti Pradidevi Shattavataye Namo Namaha. Jashmati Tulasi Maharani Vrindari Viki Jai. Okay, don't worry. Practice, huh? Yes. Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namaha. Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha. Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Radha Krishna Seva Prabhu Eya Bilasi Radha Krishna Seva Prabhu Eyo Bilasi Je tomara sharanala Tara vancha purna Kripa kari kara tare Vrindavana vasi tumi Tumi kripa kari kara tare Vrindavana vasi Nama Namaha Moraya Vila Vilasa Kunje Diyava Moraya Nayane Vivo Sada Jugala Ruparasi Ami Eni Vedana Dhara Sakirano Gata Kara Sevayadi Kara Diye Karo Nijadasi Dina Krishna Dase Koi Eye Namora Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadaye Navasi Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadaye Navasi Namo Namo Janika Nisa Papani Brahma Hatyadi Kanisa Tani Tani Prana Santi Pradachina Pade Pade Ja Jani kanisa papane brahma hatyari kanisa Tani tane prana santi pradakshina pade pade Jani kanisa papane brahma hatyari kanisa Tani tani prana santi pradakshina pade pade Hare Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Brinda Devi, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Brinda Devi. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Shri Vrindaye Tulasi Devi Priyaye Ke Savasatya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satabhatai Namo Namo. Vrindaye Tulasi Devi Priyaye Ke Savasatya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satabhatai Namo Namo. Vrindaye Tulasi Devi Priyaye Kesava Satya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satabhatai Namo Namo. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Brinda Devi Ki Jai. Oh Tulsi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestowing your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavana. My desire is that you also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower, carry damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in love with Shri Radha and Govinda. Shri Mati Tulsi Maharani Brinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shikhastakam Ki Jai. Chaito Darpanamanjanam Bhavamahada Vaninivapanam Shri Akari Vanjatikam Vikaritanam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivadhanam Patiparam Purnamrita Sadanam Sarvatmasnam Paramparam Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bhauta Nizasarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Shmarane Nakala Ita Dusitava Kripaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhaivam idrisham yajani nanuragaha trinadapi sunichena tarorapi saishana amanyamanadena kirtaniya sada hari Radhanam na janam na sundarim Kavitamba jagadi sakamaye Mama janmane janmanishwari Bhavata bhakti raitu kitwai Ainanda tanuja kinkaram Patitam mam vishame bhavam budau Kripaya tava pada pankaja Sthita dhuli sadrisham vichintaya Nayanam galora shrudharaya Vananam gadagadharudaya gira Pulakai richitam vapukada Kavanamagrahane bhavisyati Jugaitam nimishena Chakyusha pravrushaitam Sunyaitam jagat sarvam Govinda virahena me Asli sabhapadaratam pinashtumam Adarshanan marma hatam karotuva Jatha tathava vidadhatulam pato mat pranatastu saivana para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kristakam ki Jai Namo Mahavaranayo Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratrishe Namo Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutarishmada Bhakti Vidanto Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Vatsatya Jisatarine. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life or repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds, millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a Lord on strode in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause of devotion service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, somehow or other, I am falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain. I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kristakam ki Jai. So there are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the names of demigods, the Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the order of the spiritual master. 4. to blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures and pursuance of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7.
To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord.
8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are often made as fruitive activities in karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10. Do not have complete faith in chanting the holy names, and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Devancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vinata Swami Tam. Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pacharini Visesa Srimati Paskatya Saturn. Om Aganyati Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jadahapati Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Kadam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Sha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namini Shri Varsavanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Bhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Primadya Shri Rupanuka Bhakti Da Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Abhisidanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vitralambara Sambode Badambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitanandanamine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Vrayate Gauravir Baba Bhamestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Sri Jaganatayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Turabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patittanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Chise Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Suratur Pangur Mama Manda Mater Gati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohana Divya Dvindaranya Kalprutumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simasanastito Shimad Radha Sila Govinda Devo Prastalibi Sevyamanu Smarami Shiman Rasara Sarambi Vamsiva Tatatastita Karsan Venuswanir Gopir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhi Vrindavanishwari Vishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Brahmasamhita ki jai. Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakarasatma Sukalpa Riksha Laksha Vritesu Surabi Rabipali Antam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevimanam Govinda Madi Puricham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kwanandam Arvindam Dalayataksam Barhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpa Kotika Maniya Visesha Sobam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kala Sadvanamaya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranay Keli Kalavilasam Shamam Tribanga Lalitani Taprakasam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendri Vritti Pasyanti Pantika Yanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupa Madhyam Purana Purisham Navayovanam Cha Vede Sudurlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastakoti Satavatsara Sampragam Yovayora Tapi Manasomani Pungamanam Sobhyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tatve Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Jayatum Jagananda Kotim Jas Jaktirasta Jagananda Chayayanta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Dio Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanaganabusa Suktaryam Evanikama Pratitastuvanti Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Patibhavita Abhistabirya Evanijarupa Tayakalabi Goloka Evanamsata Kilatmabuto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidevisa Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menitistan Nanavataram Akarod Bhuvanesu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumamyo Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Asya Prabha Pavato Jagananda Kotim Kotis Rasesu Vasladi Vibhuti Benam Tad Brahmaniskalam Anantam Asesa Bhutam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Yasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Traigunya Tadvisaya Vida Vitaya Manam Sadva Vulambi Parasatvam Vitsut Satvam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasad Mataya Manasu Yaprani Nampati Phalam Smaratam Upaitya Lilaya Tena Bhuvanani Jaya Jasram Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijitamni Chali Chitasya Devi Maheswa Te Prabhavini Chaya Vitascha Yena Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shistista Te Pralaya Sadhava Sakti Reka Chayevi Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Abhyasya Chitesta Tesa Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yatada Divikara Visesi Yoga Sanjaya Tena Hitata Pritakasti Hita Sazam Bhutam Abhitata Tam Taitikarya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Departure Hivita Santanamabhyapeta Dipayate Viviteta Samanu Dharma Yastadra Kevi Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Karna Narna Vajale Bhajismi Yoga Nidram Ananta Jagananda Sramakupa Adhara Satyam Avalamya Param Samvartim Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yashya Keniswasita Kalamatavulamya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagananda Nata Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kalas So Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Basmanya Tasma Sakalesana Jesu Tejasriyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitat Pratatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidanu Karta Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Pada Valamali Gambini Dayakumba Dwande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Raja Vignan Vihanta Malamasya Jagatreyasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahika Ganama Vumarusi Kalas Tatatma Manasiti Jagatreyani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Amcha Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschaksuresa Savita Sagalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Desesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrata Kalachakro Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Sutayastapam Si Brahmadi Kita Patagava Deyasta Jiva Yatata Matri Bhava Prakatapa Bhava Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrinda Gopa Matavenda Mahosva Karma Bandhan Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidahati Tintu Bhakti Bhajam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Kroda Kama Saja Pranayadi Bhikti Vatsaya Mohogara Gora Vasevi Bhava Sanchintya Tasya Sadvisintanama Purite Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Sriyakan Kanta Kanta Paramapurusha Kalpatarabo Dumabumish Chintamani Ganama Hito Amritam Kataganam Natyam Gamanama Pivam Sipriasagi Chiranandam Jyoti Paramapita Swadyama Picha Sayatra Sirabi Hisavati Sirabi Vyasta Sumahan Mesa Dakyuvavrajitina Yatrapi Samaya Bajay Svita Dukam Tamaham Egolokamitiam Vedanta Ste Santaksati Varachara Katipaye Shi Guruvastaka prayers Ki spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisance at the lotus feet of such spiritual master is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments, the spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion with his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisance at the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engaged his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is liquid, drunk, and suck. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in order of revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master who is the bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. So, offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, Text number 10. Paravare Sam Bhagavan Vartani Shutani Me Vyasa Mukhada Bhikshnam Achip Nunma Shula Subhavahanam Te Samrite Krishna Katam Ritaugat. Para, higher. Avarisam, of these lower. Bhagavan, O my Lord, O Great One. Vartani, occupations. Shrutani, heard. Me, by me. Vyasa, Mukhat, from the mouth. Abhikshanam, repeatedly. Achip nunma, I am satisfied. Shula, little. Sukha avahanam, that which causes happiness. Tesam, out of that. Rite, without. Krishna Kata talks about the personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna, Amrita Ugat, from the nectar. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O my Lord, I have repeatedly heard about these higher and lower statuses of human society from the mouth of Vyasadeva, and I am quite satiated with all these lesser subject matters and their happiness. They have not satisfied me with the nectar of topics about Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Because people are very much interested in hearing social and historical presentations, Srila Vyasadeva has compiled many books such as the Puranas and Mahabharata. These books are reading matter for the mass of people, and they are compiled with a view to reviving their God consciousness, now forgotten in the conditional life of material existence. The real purpose of such literatures is not so much to present topics of historical references, but to revive the people's sense of God consciousness. For example, Mahabharata is the history of the Battle of Kurukshetra, and common people read it because it is full of topics regarding the social, political, and economic problems of human society. But factually, the most important part of Mahabharata is Bhagavad Gita, which is automatically taught to readers along with the historical narrations of the Battle of Kurukshetra. Vidura explained to Maitreya his position of being fully satiated with the knowledge of mundane social and political topics and having no more interest in them. He was anxious to hear transcendental topics regarding Lord Sri Krishna because there were insufficient topics directly concerning Krishna in the Puranas, Mahabharata, etc. He was not satisfied and wanted to know more about Krishna. Krishna Katha, or topics regarding Krishna, are transcendental. There is no satiation in hearing such topics. Bhagavad Gita is important on account of its being Krishna Katha, or speeches delivered by Lord Krishna. The story of the Battle of Kurukshetra may be interesting for the mass of people, but to a person like Vidura, who is highly advanced in devotional service, only Krishna Katha and that which is dovetailed with Krishna Katha is interesting. Vidura wanted to hear of everything from Maitreya, and so he inquired from him, but he desired that all the topics be in relationship with Krishna. As fire is never satisfied in its consumption of firewood, so a pure devotee of the Lord never hears enough about Krishna. Historical events and other narrations concerning social and political incidents all become transcendental as soon as they are in relationship with Krishna. That is the way to transform mundane things into spiritual identity. The whole world can be transformed into Vaikuntha if all worldly activities are dovetailed with Krishna Katha. There are two important Krishna Kathas current in the world, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita is Krishna Katha because it is spoken by Krishna, whereas Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna Katha because it narrates about Krishna. Lord Chaitanya advised all his disciples to preach Krishna Katha all over the world without discrimination because the transcendental value of Krishna Katha can purify one and all from material contamination. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O my Lord, I have repeatedly heard about these higher and lower statuses of human society from the mouth of Vyasadeva, and I am quite satiated with all these lesser subject matters and their happiness. They have not satisfied me with the nectar of topics about Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So the nectar of hearing Bhagavad Gita is something unique, and also Srimad Bhagavatam. Very few people develop this nectarian taste. Just like someone may develop a taste for coffee, or someone may develop a taste for cigarettes, or someone may develop a taste for hearing mundane knowledge about politics, economics, and other mundane subjects. But the devotee develops a definite taste to hear and speak about Krishna's transcendental pastimes. That is a unique taste that one may have. So therefore, it's important that we as devotees develop this taste for hearing and relishing Krishna Katha. And that's what we do basically every morning as we hear about Krishna's transcendental pastimes. The more we hear about it, the more we want to hear about it. That is the special nature of Krishna Katha. It is never old or hackneyed or in any way stale or mundane. Mundane has two meanings to it. One is that something becomes overused and repeated and become stale and not so interesting anymore. Whereas something like Krishna Katha is ever new and never, let's say, boring or, let's say, over-repeated and therefore not so interesting. So this Krishna Katha is very transcendental and requires deep attention and meditation to understand it. So this is the explanation in this purport. And it's also said, Daivi Sampat Vimokshaya Nirbandhanaya Suri Mata Masucha Sampadam Daivam Abhijato Sipandava. And it says, the transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demonic qualities make for bondage. Do not worry, O son of Pandu, for you are born with the divine qualities. So, in the purport, Prabhupada says, Lord Krishna encouraged Arjuna by telling him that he was not born with demoniac qualities. His involvement in the fight was not demoniac because he was considering the pros and cons. He was considering whether respectable persons such as Bhisma and Drona should be killed or not. So he was not acting under the influence of anger, false prestige, or harshness. Therefore, he was not of the quality of the demons. For a Kshatriya, a military man, shooting arrows at the enemy is considered transcendental, and refraining from such a duty is demoniac. Therefore, there was no cause for Arjuna to lament. Anyone who performs the regulative principles of the different orders of life is transcendentally situated. So, therefore, the devotees are transcendentally situated because their main concern in life is how to please Krishna. And to learn how to please Krishna, they hear about great devotees like Sukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit and Maharaj Yudhisthira and Maharaj Parikshit. So such devotees are exemplary, and they are very eager to hear more and more about Krishna. That is the qualification of a genuine devotee. They're not so interested anymore in economics and political issues and military issues and mundane issues of material life, like mundane histories. It's like children are forced to hear history of the United States or of Europe or India, and it's usually very disturbing hearing those things because there's a lot of battles and wars and intrigues and all kinds of unsavory behaviors. However, when we hear about Krishna, and although Krishna was involved in certain battles, Krishna was involved sometimes in different types of political situations, but because it's in relationship with Krishna, it's actually nectarian. Whereas when these topics are in relationship to mundane people, it's very disturbing, because mundane people perform all kinds of dastardly acts that are very, let's say, disturbing to the mind. So, therefore, we hear about Krishna's pastimes on a daily basis because that brings us in contact with Krishna. There's no difference between Krishna Katha and Krishna himself. And the more we hear, the more we develop the relish to hear, that taste, and that's called a higher taste. Naha Bhikramanestusti Pratijayana Vidite Swapam Apiyasya Dharma Sachayate Mahato Bhayat. So when we engage in this hearing about Krishna, we make spiritual advancement. And also, we become purified of the desire for sense gratification, and we become very enthusiastic with the desire to engage in devotional service. These are the advantages of regularly hearing about Krishna. And it says, in this endeavor, in other words, engaging in hearing about Krishna and engaging in Krishna's service, there is never any loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So, this verse, second chapter, 40th verse, basically is saying that any activity in Krishna consciousness or acting for the benefit of Krishna without expectation of sense gratification is the highest transcendental quality of work. Even a small beginning of such activity finds no impediment, nor can that small beginning be lost at any stage. So in other words, just by hearing about Krishna like we're doing now, one gains eternal benefit, because when you hear again in the future, you start from the point where you left off. In other words, the benefit that you gain by hearing about Krishna is never lost. It is a permanent gain. So you cannot say that about anything else except Krishna Katha and Krishna's service. So any work begun in Krishna consciousness has a permanent effect, even though not finished. The performer of such work is therefore not at a loss, even if his work in Krishna consciousness is incomplete. 1% done in Krishna consciousness bears permanent results, so that the next beginning is from the point of 2%. Whereas in material activity, without 100% success, there is no profit. Ajamil performed his duty in some percentage of Krishna consciousness, but the result he enjoyed at the end was 100% by the grace of the Lord. In other words, whatever he did when he was up to the age of 16, because he was Krishna conscious at that time, he was trained as a pujari, was never lost. So when when at the moment of death, when he was about to die, he was able to remember Krishna, and he became purified. So that benefit is something that can never be lost. In other words, when you do devotional service or you hear about Krishna, you are benefited in a permanent way. Okay, so it says, therefore, Tyaktva dharmam charanam bhujam harir bhajan apakvo tapatet tato yadi yatrakva vibhadram abud amusya kim kovarta apto bhajatam swadharma taha. If someone gives up his occupational duties and works in Krishna consciousness and then falls down on account of not completing his work, what loss is there on his part? Because whatever he did, that benefit stays with him eternally. And the next time he starts from the point that he left off. He doesn't start from zero. On the other hand, what can one gain if one performs his material activities perfectly? Or, as the Christians say, what is profitable for a man if he gains the whole world yet suffers the loss of his eternal soul? So, material activities always end up in zero. Spiritual activities always end up in plus. That's the difference. And that's why the benefit of spiritual activities can never be lost. Material activities and their results end with the body, but work in Krishna consciousness carries a person again to Krishna consciousness, even after the loss of the body. At least one is sure to have a chance in the next life of being born again as a human being, either in the family of a great cultured Brahmana or in a rich aristocratic family that will give one a further chance for elevation. That is the unique quality of work done in Krishna consciousness. So we should understand this, that you're never a loser in Krishna consciousness. You can only be a winner, because whatever you do for Krishna will stay with you eternally. Okay, then also the idea that Krishna Katha is full of nectar. Why is that? Well, because Krishna is the most powerful person. Krishna is the richest person. Krishna is the most beautiful person. Krishna is the most knowledgeable person. Krishna is the most famous person, and Krishna is the most renounced person. He has these 6 opulences in full. No one else has these 6 opulences in full. One may have a certain percentage of 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, or 6 of these opulences, but not 100%. Krishna has 100% plus opulences and powers that no one else can emulate. Therefore, there's no question of boredom when you hear about Krishna. There's only excitement, and the taste for hearing increases. It doesn't decrease. Let's say you watch a movie, like there's this famous movie called Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart and the Norwegian lady. Anyway, you see it once, you might see it twice. I mean, people like this movie a lot because it's very impelling. And you might see it 3 times, you might see it 4 times, but after that you don't want to see it anymore because you know the whole plot, you know everything. But Krishna Katha is different. You can hear it over and over and over and over again, and every time something new will be revealed to you. So it's exciting. That discovery is exciting. And why is that? Because the more you hear about Krishna, the more you become purified. The more you become purified, the more you understand, and you see the different kaleidoscopic levels of meaning in Krishna's words. Now, what is a kaleidoscope? Does anyone know what a kaleidoscope? Yes, Mr. Samart.
So it's basically like it's like a cylinder where like you look into the cylinder, and then there's like different designs, and you can shake it up, and there's like mirrors all around, and if you can shake it, then like it's a different design each time, basically.
You see more and more different layers of pictures, right? That seems to be infinite. Yes, so the Krishna Katha is kaleidoscopic. The more you hear, the more you become purified. The more you become purified, the more you understand. Deeper and deeper levels of meaning in Krishna's words and his pastimes. So that is a very unique thing. There are some other books that may be something like that, but not to the degree of Krishna Katha, because it's eternal. Krishna is eternal, therefore obviously his pastimes are eternal. Therefore there's no question of boredom or satiation. Means you come to your limit, you can't go any further. No. One is never satiated or never satisfied completely by Krishna consciousness, because it's exciting and it's dynamic and it's always increasing. So this is something that we should experience, and we are. The more we read about the Srimad Bhagavatam, the more interesting it becomes, and the more things we learn. It's not, and even though there seems to be repetition, but every time there's repetition, there's a deeper level of understanding of what is being repeated. Okay, so that is not the case with social and historical and economic subject matters in the mundane world, and social, political, and economic issues. They're actually boring after a little while. It's also the same thing over and over again. And therefore, people get satiated. They hit their limit, and they say, well, I know what the next thing is going to be. It's the same old all the time. But Krishna Katha is always discovery, something new that you didn't understand before, or were not pure enough to understand it. And as you become more purified, those different layers of deep meanings become revealed. So, therefore, our life should be based on Krishna Katha. And since Janmashtami starts tomorrow, we'll begin with some Krishna Katha today. And in the preface to the Krishna book, Prabhupada writes, in the Western countries, when someone sees the cover of a book like Krishna, he immediately asks, who is Krishna? Who is the girl with Krishna, etc.? The immediate answer is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How is that? Because he conforms in exact detail to descriptions of the Supreme Being, the Godhead. In other words, Krishna is the Godhead because he is all attractive. Outside the principle of all attraction, there is no meaning to the word Godhead. How is it one can be all attractive? First of all, if one is very wealthy, if he has great riches, he becomes attractive to the people in general. Similarly, if someone is very powerful, he also becomes attractive. And if someone is very famous, he also becomes attractive. And if someone is very beautiful or wise or unattached to all kinds of possessions, he also becomes attractive. So from the practical experience, we can observe that one is attractive due to wealth, power, fame, beauty, wisdom, or knowledge, and renunciation. One who is in possession of all six of these opulences at the same time, who possesses them to an unlimited degree, is understood to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These opulences of the Godhead are delineated by Parasara Muni, a great Vedic authority. So there's Parasara Muni, and also there is Sri Rupa Goswami and other devotees who have delineated all the unique qualities of Krishna. And there's no limit to them. So they've delimited up to what they understand, but not everything, because Krishna's transcendental qualities are constantly increasing. So we have seen many rich persons, many powerful persons, many famous persons, many beautiful persons, many learned and scholarly persons, and persons in the renounced order of life unattached to material possessions. But we have never seen any one person who is unlimitedly and simultaneously wealthy, powerful, famous, beautiful, wise, and unattached like Krishna in the history of humanity. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is a historical person who appeared on this earth 5,000 years ago. So that's an important point. Jesus is also an historical person, right? Moses or Abraham are also historical persons. So in the same way, Krishna is a historical person. He was actually on this earth. He engaged in specifically delineated pastimes and interactions with other persons. So all these are proofs of Krishna's, being in this world. There are archaeological remnants of Krishna's being in this world. Dwarka, although it's in the ocean right now, still the rocks are there and the buildings are there. You can go. You have to dive into the ocean, Indian Ocean, off the shores of Gujarat, and you will encounter the buildings, many of the buildings and rocks and inscriptions and things like that off the shore of Gujarat. So there are archaeological remains. There are not only that, but also the bridge that went from Kanyakumari or Rameshwaram to Lanka. That is also there. you can also, you have to go underwater, but it's still there. So there are archaeological remains, there are historical records, there are eyewitnesses, there are whole treatises and different historical accounts of Krishna's being on the earth. So as a historical person who appeared on this earth 5,000 years ago, he stayed on the earth for 125 years and played exactly like a human being, but his activities were unparalleled. In other words, no one could ever emulate his activities. From the very moment of his appearance to the moment of his disappearance, every one of his activities is unparalleled in the history of the world. And therefore, anyone who knows what he means by Godhead will accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is equal to the Godhead, and no one is greater than him. That is the import of the familiar saying, God is great, or Allahu Akbar, God is great. So that means that Krishna's pastimes are unparalleled. No one can emulate them. No one can come up to the same level of excellence as Krishna in his pastimes. Like for example, the Brahmastra weapon is coming at a tremendous speed to kill Maharaj Parikshit in the womb of his mother, Uttara. Krishna enters the womb and protects from the child from being burned by the fire weapon, which is a Brahmastra. And people see it. Kunti witnesses it. Uttara witnesses it. Parikshit witnesses it. Right? That's why he's called Parikshit, because it means he's always looking for Krishna. He's trying to examine things to find Krishna, because he saw him once in the womb. And after that, he doesn't see him anymore. So he comes into the world and he's looking always for Krishna. There are various classes of men in the world who speak of God in different ways, but according to the Vedic literatures and according to the great acharyas, the authorized persons versed in the knowledge of God in all ages, like acharyas, Sankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Vishnuswami, Lord Chaitanya, and all their followers by disciplic succession, all unanimously agree that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Notice he says Sankara and Ramanuja. See? So that includes all the Shivaishnavas, and that includes the Mayavadis also. Their let's say, initial acharya have validated the existence of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All unanimously agree that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as we, the followers of Vedic civilization, are concerned, we accept the Vedic history of the whole universe, which consists of different planetary systems called Svargaloka, or the higher planetary system, Martyaloka, or the intermediate planetary system, and Patala Loka, or the lower planetary system. The modern historians of this earth cannot supply historical evidence of events that occurred before 5,000 years ago, and the anthropologists say that 40,000 years ago Homo sapiens had not appeared on this planet because evolution had not reached that point. But the Vedic histories, such as Puranas and Mahabharata, relate human histories which extend millions and billions of years into the past. For example, from these literatures, we are given the histories of Krishna's appearance and disappearance millions and billions of years ago. Yeah, when you hear about Krishna who's fighting with Hiranyaksha or Hiranyakashipu, that happened a long, long time ago. It's not 5,000 years ago. It's much longer than. Or you hear the pastimes of Krishna as Lord Ramachandra. That happened over 1.75 million years ago. Or when he spoke Bhagavad Gita first time to the sun god, that's like 140 million years ago, right? So these are incredible lifespans or histories that's untouchable by the modern histories and so forth. They go back at most to 3,500 years ago, the Bible and so forth. But we're going back millions of years ago in Krishna's history. Okay, so for example, these literature, but the Vedic histories such as Puranas and Mahabharata relate human histories which extend millions and billions of years into the past. For example, from these literatures we are given the histories of Krishna's appearance and disappearances millions and billions of years ago. In the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that both he and Arjuna had many births before that. He, Krishna, could remember all of them, but Arjuna could not. This illustrates the difference between the knowledge of Krishna and that of Arjuna. Arjuna might have been a very great warrior, a well-cultured member of the Kuru dynasty, but after all, he was an ordinary human being. Whereas Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the possessor of unlimited knowledge. Because he possesses unlimited knowledge, Krishna has a memory that is boundless. Krishna's knowledge is so perfect that he remembers all the incidents of his appearances some millions and billions of years in the past. But Arjuna's memory and knowledge are limited by time and space, for he is an ordinary human being. In the 4th chapter, Krishna states that he can remember instructing lessons of the Bhagavad Gita some millions of years ago to the sun god Vivaswan. Nowadays, it is the fashion of the atheistic class of men to try to become God by following some mystic process. Generally, the atheists claim to be God by dint of their imagination or their meditational prowess. Krishna is not that kind of God. He does not become God by manufacturing some mystic process of meditation, nor does he become God by undergoing the severe austerities of the mystic yogic exercises. Properly speaking, he never becomes God because he is the Godhead in all circumstances. Within the prison of his maternal uncle Kamsa, where his father and mother were confined, Krishna appeared outside of his mother's body as the four-handed Vishnu Narayana. Then he turned himself into a baby and told his father to carry him to the house of Nanda Maharaja and his wife Yasoda. When Krishna was just a small baby, the gigantic demoness, Putana, attempted to kill him, but when he sucked her breast, he pulled out her life. That is the difference between the real Godhead and a God manufactured in the mystic factory. Krishna had no chance to practice the mystic yoga process, yet he manifested himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead at every step, from infancy to childhood, from childhood to boyhood, and from boyhood to young manhood. In this book, Krishna, all of his activities as a human being are described. Although Krishna plays like a human being, he always maintains his identity as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since Krishna is all attractive, one should know that all his desires should be focused, all his, or meaning the person's desires, should be focused on Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the individual person is the proprietor or master of his own body, but that Krishna, who is the super soul present in everyone's body, is the supreme proprietor and the supreme master of each and every individual body. As such, if we concentrate our loving propensities upon Krishna only, then immediately universal love, unity, and tranquility will be automatically realized. When one waters the root of a tree, he automatically waters the branches, twigs, and leaves. When one supplies food to the stomach through the mouth, he satisfies all the various parts of the body. So, this is an amazing statement. That is, that when we understand Krishna and concentrate our loving propensities on Krishna only, notice the word only, then immediately universal love, unity, and tranquility will be automatically realized. So everyone is, not everyone, but a lot of people talk about universal love, unity, tranquility, peacefulness. But this is the way to achieve it, by Krishna Katha, not by these other ways that they all fail anyway, because there's only one way, and that is being connected to Krishna. You can't attain this universal love, universal unity, universal tranquility by avoiding Krishna. But it's only by coming closer and closer to Krishna. The art of focusing one's attention on the Supreme and giving one's love to him is called Krishna consciousness. We have inaugurated the Krishna consciousness movement so that everyone can satisfy his propensity for loving others simply by directing his love toward Krishna. Because Krishna is the source of everything. So if you love Krishna, that means you're going to love everything that he's done also. And that is expand the whole creation and material creation, as well as all the living entities in the material creation, as well as the spiritual world and all the living entities in the spiritual world. The whole world is very eager to satisfy the dormant propensity of love for others, but the various invented methods like socialism, communism, altruism, humanitarianism, and nationalism, along with whatever else may be manufactured for the peace and prosperity of the world, are all useless and frustrating because of our gross ignorance of the art of loving Krishna. Generally, people think that by advancing the cause of moral principles and religious rights, they will be happy. Others may think that happiness can be achieved by economic development, and yet others think that simply by sense gratification they will be happy. But the real fact is that people can be happy only by loving Krishna. Krishna can perfectly reciprocate one's loving propensities in different relationships called mellows or rasas. Basically, there are 12 loving relationships. One can love Krishna as the supreme unknown, as the supreme master, the supreme friend, the supreme child, the supreme lover. These are the 5 basic rasas. One can also love Krishna indirectly in 7 different relationships, which are apparently different from the 5 primary relationships. All in all, however, if one simply reposes his dormant loving propensity in Krishna, then his life becomes successful. This is not a fiction, but is a fact that can be realized by practical application. One can directly perceive the effects that love for Krishna has on his life. In the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, this science of Krishna consciousness is called the king of all knowledge, the king of all confidential things, and the supreme science of transcendental realization. Yet, we can directly experience the results of this science of Krishna consciousness because it is very easy to practice and very pleasurable. Whatever percentage of Krishna consciousness we can perform will become an eternal asset to our life. There it is. He's repeating the same thing that we discussed earlier. For it is imperishable in all circumstances. In other words, you can never be a loser in Krishna consciousness. You can only be a winner. No casino can guarantee that to you. Right? But here, Krishna is guaranteeing it.
Casinos guarantee the other way.
Yeah, casinos guarantee the other way. Yeah, you'll be a loser.
The more you play, for sure you are losing.
Yeah, I never met one person who was ahead by gambling. They were always trying to win back the money that they lost. They claim, oh, I won this, I won that, but overall they're a loser. Otherwise, why are the casinos getting bigger and more expensive? Because more people are losing their money. We have the statistic from 2016. $117 million were lost. It's $1 billion were lost in casinos and gambling, right? In 1 year, that's a huge amount of money. Right? Okay. So after 7 years, that's $1 trillion. It's a huge amount of money. Right? That's why people that own casinos are extremely rich. The first casinos that opened up in Las Vegas, they were owned by mafia people. Eventually, the government got rid of them, and then individuals started owning them. And they're extremely rich. Krishna can perfectly reciprocate one's loving propensities in different relationships called mellows or rasas. Basically, there are 12 loving relationships. One can love Krishna as the supreme unknown, as the supreme master, the supreme friend, the supreme child, the supreme lover. These are the 5 basic love rasas. One can also love Krishna indirectly in 7 different relationships, which are apparently different from the 5 primary relationships. All in all, however, if one simply reposes his dormant loving propensity in Krishna, then his life becomes successful. This is not a fiction, but it is a fact that can be realized by practical application. One can directly perceive the effects that love for Krishna has on his life. Okay, so we already read that. In the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, this science of Krishna consciousness is called the king of all knowledge, the king of all confidential things, and the supreme science of transcendental realization. Yet we can directly experience the results of this science of Krishna consciousness because it is very easy to practice and very pleasurable. Whatever percentage of Krishna consciousness we can perform will become an eternal asset to our life, for it is imperishable in all circumstances. We perceive the results of channeling the loving propensity toward Krishna alone. So Prabhupada proved this by starting the Hare Krishna movement. And many, many youth who were lost, who were hippies, who were drug addicts, and so forth, have become exemplary devotees. So that's why he's making this statement. He says, actually proved that today's confused and frustrated younger generation in the Western countries can directly perceive the results of channeling the loving propensity toward Krishna alone. It is, so you don't have to love 50 different people. You just love Krishna. Then you will love 50 billion people, or the whole population, because Krishna is the source of everything. It is said that although one executes severe austerities, penances, and sacrifices in his life, if he fails to awaken his dormant love for Krishna, then all his penances are to be considered useless. On the other hand, if one has awakened his dormant love for Krishna, then what is the use in executing austerities and penances unnecessarily? The Krishna consciousness movement is the unique gift of Lord Chaitanya to the fallen souls of this age. It is a very simple method which has actually been carried out during the last 4 years in the Western countries, and there is no doubt that this movement can satisfy the dormant, loving propensities of humanity. So Prabhupada wrote the Krishna book sometime around 1970, 1971. That's why he's saying 4 years. Right? He started the movement in 1966. This book, Krishna, is another presentation to help the Krishna consciousness movement in the Western world. This transcendental work of literature is published with profuse illustrations. People love to read various kinds of fiction to spend their time and energy. Now this tendency can be directed to Krishna. The result will be the imperishable satisfaction of the soul, both individually and collectively. It is said in the Bhagavad Gita that even a little effort expended on the path of Krishna consciousness can save one from the greatest danger. Hundreds of thousands of examples can be cited of people who have escaped the greatest dangers of life due to a slight advancement in Krishna consciousness. Well, what is he talking about, greatest danger? Greatest danger in life is, after coming to the human form of life and engaging in all kinds of activities of sense gratification, being put back into the cycle of birth and death is the most dangerous, the greatest danger. Imagine, let's say you're a human being, and in your next life you become a cockroach. Would that be a wonderful thing? No, it would be the greatest danger. If you realize, well, once you die, that you're going to be put into a body of a cockroach, oh, that's like devastating, right? Or a dog, or a piece of bacteria and slime. Just imagine how dangerous that is and how frightening that is for a person. It is said in Bhagavad Gita, even a little effort expended on the path to Krishna consciousness can save one from the greatest danger, says second chapter, 40th verse. Hundreds of thousands of examples can be cited of people who have escaped the greatest dangers of life due to a slight advancement in Krishna consciousness. What time is it now? Is it 7?
7:17.
Yeah. One will find that by reading one page after another, an immense treasure of knowledge in art, science, literature, philosophy, and religion will be revealed. And ultimately, by reading this one book, Krishna, love of Godhead, will fructify. Whoa. My grateful acknowledgments, so then he acknowledges George Harrison, who gave $19,000 to print the book. The story of how that happened is in Lilamrita. And at last, my ever-willing blessings are bestowed upon Shriman Shama Sundar Das Adhikari, Shriman Brahmananda Das Adhikari, and Shriman Hayagriva Das Adhikari, and he gave a whole bunch of people who were instrumental in helping him produce the book. And then he says, and he signs it, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. This is his signature here. You see it. Prabhupada has a very, very pronounced, very beautiful signature. And Advent Day of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, February 26, 1970. ISKCON Headquarters, 3764 Watsika Avenue, Los Angeles, California. Well, that is not the introduction, that's the preface to the Krishna book. And what a preface that is. So we'll hear more about the Krishna book in the next couple of days. Are there any questions?
It's amazing that we ended up on this verse just on Krishna.
Yes.
So it's
Amazing. Krishna Katha.
yes.
Yeah. Prabhupada's mercy. Yeah. And any other questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Maharaj, in verse 240,
Yes.
and there is line, if someone gives up his occupational duties and works in Krishna consciousness, and then falls down on the account of not completing his work,
Yes.
what is the what loss is there on his part? So a devotee will never give up the occupational duty, right, Maharaj? So
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they bloop. You know where the word bloop came from? When you're drowning, right? So you're trying to hold your breath in, you're underwater. But then you can't help it, and you exhale, and it goes bloop, 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 bloop. So they use that word to mean someone leaves Krishna consciousness. In other words, they drown in the material world. Bloop, 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 bloop. Right? Yeah. So yeah, sometimes devotees bloop. They leave Krishna consciousness. But there's no loss, because whatever they've done can never be lost. It's always a benefit. And next time they start again in a future life, they start from the point they left off. Okay? Any other questions? All right, so then we will have Guru Puja. Who wants to sing?
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala
Bandhamu Isa Vadana Maje Jahara Prasade Bai E Baba Toriya Jai Krishna Prapti Ho Jaha Hote Krishna Prapti Ho Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chidat Koriya Kya Arna Kari Ho Mane Asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati Jai Prasad Pure Sarva Asha Jai Prasad Pure Sarva चक्षुदान दिलो रे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो प्रेम भक्ति जहा होय दया विद्या विनाशा जाते वेद गाय जहा चरितो Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adamara Nara Bandhu Loke Nath Loke Rajivana Aha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Padachaya Ebejas Gushuk Tribhuvana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Namam Vishnu Pada Bhattaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Nityananda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Gurudeva Jayo Gurudeva Jayo Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva
Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajaka Shimari's Divine Grace Bhakti Vedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Vedanta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sri Kahoshi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakti Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Mayapur Dham ki jai, Jagannathpuri Dham ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai, Yamuna Maya ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Itai Gaura Premananda. All glories to simple devotees, all glories to simple devotees, all glories to simple devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Bhavani ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Srimati Namaste Saraswati Devi The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor. By his grace, we may cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord who has ever birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada, Patita Bhavani ki jai. Gaur Premanande, Nama Om Vishnu. So there was something I was going to read. I forgot where it was. Now I found it again. So it's the 10th chapter, 18th verse. It says, O Janardana, again please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulence. Janardana is another name of Krishna. I am never satiated in hearing about you. That's the whole purpose today that we read. For the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, a similar statement was made to Sutta Goswami by the rishis of Naimisharanya, headed by Sonaka. That statement is, Vayam tu na vitripyama uttama sloka vikrama yachinvatam rasa jnanam swadu swadu pade pade. One can never be satiated, even though one continuously hears the transcendental pastimes of Krishna, who is glorified by excellent prayers. Those who have entered into a transcendental relationship with Krishna relish at every step the descriptions of the pastimes of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.19. Thus, Arjuna is interested in hearing about Krishna and specifically how he remains as the all-pervading Supreme Lord. Now, as far as Amritam nectar is concerned, any narration or statement concerning Krishna is just like nectar, and this nectar can be perceived by practical experience. Modern stories, fiction, and histories are different from the transcendental pastimes of the Lord in that one will tire of hearing mundane stories, but one never tires of hearing about Krishna. It is for this reason only that the history of the whole universe is replete with references to the pastimes of the incarnations of Godhead. The Puranas are histories of bygone ages that relate the pastimes of the various incarnations of the Lord. In this way, the reading matter remains forever fresh despite repeated readings. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. 10:18. Satiation means completely satisfied. So people are, and also it has a slightly negative connotation, where it means that, you know, the repetition of it is boring. But the real meaning is, the primary meaning is you're completely satisfied. In other words, you don't want to go any further, you're completely satisfied. Whereas you're never satiated hearing Krishna Katha.